So you watched the Hunter x Hunter anime, the one that aired from 2011 to 2014 and had 148 episodes, and you're saying to yourself, well, what's next? Where's the continuation? Well, that's why this video exists, guys. I want to give you the story of what happened after the anime, with the Dark Continent arc and the Succession Contest arc. But before we get into that, let's just give a very brief reminder of what happened in the previous arc, just so you're kind of up to date on everything. Now, if you remember from the anime, the last arc of the series was the 13th Hunter Chairman election arc. Now, after the death of the chairman, Isaac Netero, the Zodiacs gathered together at the Hunter Association building for a discussion. We have the introduction of Aluka Zoldyck, who ends up healing Gon. Hisoka ends up participating in the election by putting in a blank ballot. And after winning the election, Pariston anoints Cheetle as the vice chairman and immediately resigns. Gon ends up on top of the world by climbing a world tree and having a nice discussion with his father. And in this discussion, we find out that the world we've been accustomed to is a very small portion of the entire Earth. And there exists a large continent that is largely unexplored, and from it is the birthplace of the Chimera ants. And to round things off, we see Kurapika with multiple sets of scarlet eyes. So now that we got the brief refresher out of the way, let's get into the Dark Continent arc, guys. But before that, I want to show you some awesome anime merchandise. Now, of course, if you want some of this merchandise for yourselves, there's a link in the description and a code to get you 10% off. Beans goes into the Zodiac's conference room, shouting about an emergency as Cheetle is about to make an announcement. The Zodiacs presume she will step down as chairman. Beans shows them a video in which the Kakin Empire will bear the burden and advance into the Dark Continent. The Dark Continent is where different types of humanities exist, as well as magical beasts. Any human who attempts to enter the continent is met with catastrophe. The present-day 5 continents signed a treaty to not go there over 200 years ago. The Kakin Emperor doesn't believe in such superstition and will move forward with his plans. Cheetle explains that 30 years ago, Kakin became a new nation and thusly was not bound to past treaties. The real troubling thing comes next, says Beans. They watch a video of the Kakin Emperor introducing the man that will lead their expedition, Netero's son, Beyond Netero. The group is surprised to learn that Netero had a son. Anyone who seeks a new world are our precious family. Let's go to a new world. I'll definitely take you there. Bean states that the chairman left behind 2 DVDs. If someone appears publicly naming himself as my child, show this to all the Zodiac 12. Cheetle prepares to give her announcement. Meanwhile, people around the world are thrilled to hear about the expedition. Despite all the legal work involved in traveling to the Dark Continent, Beyond Netero decides to ignore it all. He gives a speech to 10 of his followers, Pariston among them. Ging has withdrawn from the Zodiac 12. V5 has given them a new mission, to hunt down Beyond Netero. The IPA director and the deputy secretary, Steiner, discuss the role of V5 in accordance with the upcoming Dark Continent journey. The director shows Steiner various atrocities associated with the last entry into the Dark Continent. He then hands over a book titled Journey to the New World, which contains information from travels hundreds of years ago. He tells Steiner to memorize the contents of the book. Just then, a humanoid creature slams against the glass, startling Steiner. He's what's left of a hunter expedition that went there, and now he is immune to death. The Zodiacs watch the DVD where Netero explains that his son once went to the Dark Continent and brought back new threats. Netero wants the Hunter Association to explore the continent before his son. The Zodiacs discuss the matter, suggesting that Ging is the only one crazy enough to take up the challenge. Beans then receives a call from Beyond Netero. He then appears in front of the Zodiacs and instructs them to tell the V5 that they captured him. Meanwhile, Steiner reads about the 5 threats brought back from the Dark Continent. The weapon Bryon, the desire of codependence, the two-tailed snake Hellbell, human-feeding beast Papu, and the immortal sickness, Zobei disease. Cheetle begins to interrogate Beyond Netero. There were 149 voyages to the Dark Continent, with only 28 survivors. However, However, without the aid of guides, mankind has never successfully made the voyage. Out of the 28 survivors, only 3 made their way back to normal life. By the way, the guides are called gatekeepers. Steiner suggests they join the Kakin Empire, making them into a V6. Back to the interrogation, Beyond offered the King of Kakin to become a historical figure, in exchange for going to the Dark Continent. Despite resistance from the Zodiacs, it is later decided that they will join Beyond on his expedition. However, Beyond will still be placed under arrest, something he embraces. In some other place, the Black Whale transport ship is presented to the public. It will carry 200,000 people, and in the following years, the Kakin Emperor will send 1 million people to the Dark Continent. Ging Freaks arrives in the lair of Beyond's Dark Continent expedition team. Let me in on the fun too. Ging claims that Periston has 5,000 Chimera at his disposal, and taunts him by saying he could be his playmate. Cheadle invites Leorio to the Zodiacs. Although he's skeptical to join at first, he wonders if Karapka can join as well. Periston says that Cheadle will recruit through the Hunter exam for the expedition. Ging wonders who's the strongest person, and Periston calls himself the number 2. Ging then declares himself as the number 2, and challenges anyone who wants to test him. Mizai reveals his Nen ability, Cross Game, allowing him to restrain people's movements with cards. He then meets with Karapka, revealing that the 4th Prince of the Kakin Empire owns a significant amount of Scarlet Eyes. Karapka thusly joins the Zodiacs. 2 members want to fight with Ging, but Ging offers to double their payment so that he can be the number 2. Turns out that Periston didn't receive money from Beyond for the mission. Mizai warns Karapka that the prince has a darker side. Elsewhere, Gon is unable to access his Nen. Ging states that the 5 threats on the Dark Continent are more powerful than the Chimera Ants. The Hunter Association allied with Netero on the expedition to the continent. According to Netero, the continent is massive. On his expedition, he was accompanied by Hors d'oeuvre and Zig Zoldyck. To prevent Beyond from traveling there, Netero placed a ban on the continent. The man who received money from Ging returns, having used the money to save his younger sister in the hospital. Ging is now second on the team. Ging explains that a person explored the continent and kept a journal. The journal is named after the East and the West, but the West journal has never been found. Ging surmises that the West part is still being written by a man named Don Freaks. Gon talks to Ging, informing him that he can't use his Nen. Ging says he's lucky he didn't lose more than that, and instructs him to go back and look for something. Gon henceforth returns to Whale Island, and reunites with Mito and his great-grandmother. Beyond's team then divides into 2 groups. There are those who refuse Ging's money, and there are those who accept it along with his number 2 spot. Periston is among those who accept his number 2 spot. Ging determines that the team is made up of expert temp hunters. Temp hunters being those with governmental jobs. Periston confesses that Ging's thought process is similar to his, making him hate him. Elsewhere, we see the 4th Prince of Kakin, Tserriednich, in a bathroom smeared with blood. He then asks for another pair of women. Cheadle then makes Beyond sign a contract that says if he breaks any of their rules, he'll spend his entire life in prison, to which he obliges. Mizai wonders what Karapka will do with the prince after they take the Scarlet Eyes back. Karapka doesn't care, he just wants the eyes back, and he hopes that the prince will have a change of quote-unquote heart in the matter. Karapka is given the codename Rat, and Leorio is given the codename Boar. The danger ranks for all 5 calamities on the Dark Continent are B+, exceeding the ranks of the Chimera Ants, which were all B rank. Leorio is skeptical they can battle the threats and hold back Netero's son. Karapka deduces that Beyond has allies within the organization. He determines that Periston was one of his allies. Mizai secretly tells Karapka that he agrees there's a spy in the Zodiacs. The Zodiacs are then divided into 4 divisions. The Science Division, Cheadle, Gel, and Leorio. The Intelligence Division, Mizai, Payan, Sacho, and Karapka. Defense, Bodobai, Sayu, and Kanzai. And then Floral, Chuck, and Ginta. 1 month after the meeting, Ging demonstrates a Nen ability in which he moves warts on his body. After losing an ancient vocabulary challenge to Ging, Curly accepts his position as number 2. Periston says that all their side assassins failed the Hunter exam due to the screening efforts on Karapka's part. Periston says that Beyond will escape when they reach the new continent. The assassins who failed the Hunter exam want either Ging or Periston to leave the team. The 2 propose their own options. Either they all leave, or they all die. Muher's assassins attack Ging and Peristan. After running away, Ging uses a version of Lario's remote punch to obliterate them. It turns out that if Ging gets hit with a strike ability once, he can imitate it. He then uses pulses of aura to determine the other two's location, and thusly takes him out. Ging determines the attack was staged by Peristan to figure out his abilities. Muher shows Ging a golem that can conjure weapons with aura bullets. Muher tells Ging he finds his practice of giving money to become number 2 distasteful. To make amends, Ging offers to donate to the Noel Foundation, which helps families of fallen soldiers. If Ging were to make a grandchild account, he'd be considered a soldier and wouldn't be able to turn down requests from the grandfather account. Muher agrees to take the money for the foundation and accepts Ging's role as number 2. Muher remains in control of the soldiers, and since Ging donated as his grandson, he now takes orders from him. "Congratulations on your inauguration as number 2, says Peristan. At the 289th Hunter exam, Kurapka uses his dowsing chain to determine the veracity of applicants' answers, to see if they are working with Beyond. While Kurapka's ability can sniff out lies, it won't work if someone has altered their memories, or erased them. Tserriednich talks to his elder brother Benjamin, and Benjamin says, "The one person who survives the voyage will soon be the king. The two will thusly fight for the throne." Tserriednich finds out his 5 bodyguards have passed the Hunter examination. Prince Benjamin and Prince Tyson's bodyguards did not participate in the Hunter exam. Prince Lu Sabru's bodyguards all failed. Mizai states that the Zodiacs were divided into factions, and no one knows the Nen abilities of people of different factions. But because they separated into specialty teams, they willingly shared their abilities with one another for cooperation. Mizai then confronts the Zodiacs about there being a spy. He reveals his Nen ability, Cross Game, to determine who the traitor is. Kurapka watches the events from a monitor, determining that Sayu is the traitor. The succession to the king's throne will be limited to the 14 princes, and will begin as soon as the black whale sounds its departure horn. If any candidate dies before the horn is sounded, the contest will be cancelled. The 14 princes are henceforth shown, with some of them still being children. Their royal blood is placed in a seed urn, which grants them a guardian sacred beast, although they are unaware of this. We then see the king's guardian sacred beast. And yeah, it's quite the sight. On August 8th, 35 days from now, the whale will depart. Mizai demands to know the person on Beyond's side, who's also in the Zodiacs. Mizai determines that Beyond knows nothing about Sayu. He deduces that Peristan is in charge, and Sayu is his conspirator, who will rescue Beyond. From their earlier meeting, Sayu can summon 3 monkeys, allowing him to rob people of their sight, hearing, and speech. For the time being, Mizai and Kurapka won't make a move. They don't want to alert their enemies too soon. They will thusly restrain Sayu just before making landfall on the new continent. The two worry, however, about the possibility of backlash about their secret alliance to capture Sayu. Just then, the Kakin princes, 6 of them at least, are recruiting bodyguards for the upcoming celebration, which means the spies they weeded out at the Hunter exam could board the ship. Since the princes are recruiting hunters for their bodyguards, Kurapka enlists Basho, Biscuit, Hanzo, Aizunavi, and Melody to infiltrate each prince's security detail. After offending Biscuit, Kurapka butters her up by calling her a princess. Kurapka looks over the formal request for each prince, narrowing it down to 2 candidates. One who put out the highest compensation, and the other who refused to change his compensation. One of the 2 is likely to be Prince Harkenberg, an honor student who has a bad relationship with his mother and sisters. He was the black sheep of the family, with only Prince Tserriednich accepting him. He openly criticized the royals, and entered a boarding school to avoid assassination. Kurapka accepts the request from the one he believes to be Harkenberg, so he can get closer to Tserriednich. The others make their selections and head out. Kurapka arrives at the hotel, finding out that the request came from the mother of Prince Wobble. Oito, the mother, introduces herself. She intentionally misled Kurapka to make him think that he was putting in a bid for Prince Harkenberg. In fact, the information on the bidding site was intentionally vague, to deter people from pinpointing potential targets. Harkenberg wanted to change the royal family's government from its roots, meaning he has many assassins after his head, and would invariably act as a fake bodyguard to get close to him. This is convenient for Oito since they could protect her child while it's getting closer to Harkenberg, a win-win situation as it were. She reveals that this journey is a survival match until there is only one prince left. A child that believes, that does not doubt at all that he will be king. That is what it means to be a prince. She hopes to buy hers and Wobel's safety by blackmailing Harkenberg about the details of the Succession War, since it would be a scandal if it were made public. If Krapka can get them off the ship, she'll pay him 10 times his original amount. If he declines, she'll still pay him to keep him quiet. Krapka agrees on some conditions and holds Prince Wobel. Aizunabe is the bodyguard to the 6th prince, Tyson, Biscuit to the 13th prince, Mariam, Basho 7th prince, Lazarus, Melody to the 10th prince, Kacho, and Hanzo to the 12th prince, Momozi. At Heaven's Arena, 2 floor masters are set to battle, Chrollo and Hisoka. "Let's take this to the death," says Chrollo. Okay. The use of any and all weapons is permitted. Chrollo pulls out his book, as Hisoka readies his card. Chrollo throws a black antenna at the judge's neck, and shows Hisoka a small phone. Hisoka notices another antenna as the referee lunges for Hisoka, with vicious intent. The clown determines that Chrollo wants to stick him with the other antenna, as he uses the judge as a distraction. Hisoka wonders how many people Chrollo can control at once. Hisoka then uses bungee gum to attach the judge to pull him towards Chrollo. Chrollo dodges and waits patiently behind the judge so he can stick Hisoka. Stick Hisoka. Hisoka slices the judge's neck with one of his cards, but the judge's chest explodes. Hisoka thusly retreats to the ceiling. Sun and moon. He affixes the seals to his hands, and when they touch, they explode. In an instant, Chrollo affixed the seals to the referee. If the referee were to press them together for 3 to 5 seconds, it would have blasted everyone in the arena. I acquired this ability in Meteor City. Chrollo has a bookmark called Double Face, which allows him to use an ability on a page in the book, even when it's closed. He can have the bookmark on one page and have it open on another, allowing him to use 2 abilities at once. Well, technically speaking, he's using 4 abilities. The book, the bookmark, and the 2 stolen abilities. But only the book and the bookmark belong to him. Chrollo came up with the bookmark so he could use abilities that required 2 hands. Fighting without holding the book is also a nice perk as well. He's going to introduce 3 more abilities to Hisoka, which is a new record for him in killing someone. Chrollo accumulates abilities to assure his victory, which is what he did to Hisoka. Chrollo uses Order Stamp, which allows him to control puppets. While Black Voice can only control 2 people at once, Order Stamp allows him to control a greater number of people, but he can't give them complex orders when doing so. He uses Gallery Fake to make a copy of the judge, and uses Order Stamp to control him. Being a skill hunter, Chrollo relishes mastering other skills while making it all his own. Hisoka decapitates the fake. Chrollo then reveals Convert Hands Transfer Student, which allows him to swap appearances with someone. He then states that when someone dies, their abilities disappear from the book. However, one of the abilities he currently possesses belongs to a dead person, then becoming stronger through death. Chrollo informs Hisoka that once the Sun and Moon seals have been affixed, they can never be removed, meaning the ability remains intact regardless of whether Chrollo has a bookmark on the page. Chrollo brings forth Black Voice, as Hisoka activates Bungee Gum. Chrollo controls someone to block his path. After defeating him, another one comes forward. The order of events are going as follows. Black Voice, use bookmark to maintain ability, activate Convert Hands, transform into someone else, move bookmark to convert hands, close book, and hide. The crowd panics as Hisoka realizes that Chrollo is hiding amongst them with his abilities. All of a sudden, 30 puppets rush towards Hisoka. The clown uses bungee gum to elevate himself, but the horde of puppets are unrelentless. Chrollo appears behind him and lands a critical blow. How magnificent, thinks Hisoka. The clown battles the horde as Chrollo flies in with a kick to the neck. Hisoka tries to establish his bearings, but Chrollo won't give him a single moment. Chrollo comes from above as Hisoka uses bungee gum to throw several heads at him. I saw you set the whole move up, says Chrollo. I know, replies Hisoka, as the second severed head hits its target. Hisoka uses another head to hit Chrollo's left side as the 2 reset themselves. The clown continues eliminating the fakes whilst attacking his main target. Chrollo escapes into the crowd as Hisoka takes down all the fakes, except for one. Chrollo dispels the stamp as Hisoka gives chase. Hisoka chucks severed heads as he realizes that Chrollo might have his book open to Black Voice inside his clothing. Hisoka uses bungee gum to propel several people at Chrollo. He throws a severed head at Chrollo and catches Chrollo's leg with his bungee gum. He smashes the man to death, but it turns out that Chrollo disguised an audience member as himself. This makes him realize that he's been misled, and audience members marked with the seal don't disappear. Through this trickery, Chrollo was able to ascertain how Hisoka interpreted his explanation. Hisoka then realizes that the real order is activate activate gallery fake, affix the bookmark and close the book, mass produce copies, activate sun and moon, affix the sun seal on copies, release ability, activate order stamp, and then finally, order them to break Hisoka. Since the rescue crew will be here soon, Chrollo will probably put an end to everything very soon. The audience goes into a frenzy, but the crazed clown embraces the challenge. He grabs a group of them with his bungee gum, twirls them around, and mows down the oncomers. His human hammer breaks as more rush forward. Amongst the audience, Chrollo uses black voice to give an unknown person some commands. Hisoka holds a severed head in his hand. "Now," says Chrollo. A sudden explosion takes off 4 fingers on Hisoka's left hand. Chrollo attached a full-powered bomb onto one of the bodies, placed a plus sign on it, and had one of his puppets with a minus sign touch it. "I suppose from here on, I won't have the freedom to analyze and pick apart your tactics. Now it's do or die." Hisoka pulls off a head and attaches himself to a wall with his bungee gum. The horde, however, is unrelenting. He makes a mad dash, but it's not long before all the paths are blocked off. A massive explosion ensues, sending Hisoka flying across the stadium. He wants to bungee gum up to the ceiling for safety, but realizes that his right leg is now gone. Chrollo then starts chucking audience members at him. "What's this? Going to die? Well, I guess if I'm gonna die anyway." A massive explosion ensues. Firefighters and paramedics rush onto the scene. Numerous victims lost their lives to the incident, and it is presumed that Hisoka was among them that died. The members of the Spiders stare down at Hisoka's charred body. Turns out the cause of death was suffocation, due to the wall of flesh piled on top of him. Machi decides to still patch him up as the others decide to leave. This is a thank you for helping with the boss's Nen exorcism. As she leans closer, Nen aura swells from the corpse. Nen that becomes stronger after death. A flashback shows Hisoka using his rubber nen to caress his vital organs for protection. Then, at a later time, expand and contract them back to life. Hisoka's eyes open in real time as he swallows a breath of air. "Yo, Machi." Machi instructs him to sit down so she can stitch him up. However, Hisoka declines and instead uses his bungee gum to reconstruct his face and missing body parts. Machi decides to leave, but Hisoka manipulates her body. With her immobilized, Hisoka tells her to inform the others that he won't stop until he kills all the spiders. "If you want to stop me, how about you free yourself and try?" Chrollo finds out that the Kakin royal family is taking a vast amount of treasure to the new continent, which he wants to steal. Shalnark hangs up, wondering where Troupe is. Hisoka chucks her severed head at him and knocks him down with extreme force. 10 more to go, says Hisoka. It looks like Hisoka is hellbent on eliminating all the spiders. The Eve's festival commences with the journey close at hand. The Kakin Emperor is thrilled as he introduces Beyond and the 14 princes. The king's airship lands on top of the whale, and slowly everyone else of importance boards the whale boat. The boat is layered into 5 tiers, depending on the status of the person. The black whale will be under martial law, with strict rules and regulations. The voyage will be 2 months long. Kurapika realizes there's a lot of variables in play here that could complicate matters. Mizai tells Kurapika that crime on decks 3 and 4 have picked up, and he'll head down there for now. Kurapika has prepared escape routes if the worst should happen. Oito trembles as the other guards make sure she's okay. Kurapika then senses a strange, powerful aura from Prince Woble's cradle. Black Whale number 1, set sail! 3 weeks will be spent in territorial waters. 5 weeks will be spent in uncharted waters, with severe storms and flying creatures. Upon reaching the new continent, the Zodiacs will move out on Morel's ship and travel to the gate with the gatekeepers. Steiner informs his colleagues that they're heading to Labyrinth City. The current head of the International Sea Travel Permissions Bureau is one of the sole survivors. Woble's guards come across Woody, who's dead in a bathroom with all of his blood drained. The corpse is handed over to the royal guards, as Kurapika suspects that this is the work of a Nen user. Kurapika confronts 3 hunters and determines they are not aware of the Succession War. At a banquet, Prince Benjamin can't wait to begin the infighting. Kacho tells Fuyetsu they'll work together to kill the others. After that's done, Kacho will convince Father to let her live. Elsewhere, Kurapika finds 4 guards killed the same way that Woody was. He pulls out his gun and dowsing chain, with the intent of interrogating them. If they lie, he'll shoot. Kurapika informs the bodyguards about the death match between the princes. 2 of the guards know about the Succession War and are not here to protect Prince Wobble. 7 bodyguards were chosen by the 7 queens to spy on the 8th queen, who is Queen Oito. Despite spying on Queen Oito, they are not here to assassinate Prince Wobble. Things have not descended that far into anarchy. Well, not yet at least. The parasite egg jar ceremony was used to endow all the royalty with Nen abilities. All of a sudden, parasitic creatures start crawling on the guards. The room then becomes infested with Guardian Sacred Beast. Krapka uses the emergency channel to communicate what's happening with the others. Incidentally, some other people hear about this conversation as well. After talking to Biscuit, Krapka thinks, so then, does that mean that this deathmatch will unfold all on its own? Bill states that parasitic type Nen abilities can act without their host being aware, and their host can't even control them. The group hears a scream, finding out that Tserriednich killed 2 of the restrained guards. Krapka takes up the challenge to restrain Tserriednich. Tserriednich lunges forward with his dagger as Krapka wraps his chain around his wrist. This allows him to flip him over and restrain him. Krapka then steals his Nen ability, Little Eye, which allows him to launch a Nen ball at small living creatures and control them. We then see a flashback with Izunavi. The instructor worries about Krapka fighting alone, but Krapka is unconcerned and rather relishes doing everything by himself. Izunavi encourages him to find allies, as it will be a great benefit to him. In the now, Krapka sees a small parasitic creature coming out of Tserriednich's ear. He then equips the stolen power, but it does not work on living beings conjured by Nen, so I can't use it to hijack the enemy's ability. They tie Tserriednich to a chair, and he tells Krapka that his ability can only take control of something the size of a hamster. The guards take away Tserriednich, as there's only 2 hours left until they leave port, and the 11 bodyguards are down to a mere 2. We then see Momozi knitting on a chair, with her Nen beast sitting right behind her. Prince Halkenberg then approaches his father. I'm withdrawing from the succession battle. I only participated in the ceremony to save face for you, father. I don't need a crown won through bloodshed. Ho ho ho. Do as you wish. Turns out that the host's character and what they are thinking or feeling end up heavily influencing the parasite. Krapka realizes that the real fight begins once the princes return from the ceremony. Tserriednich forms an alliance with Tubepa, the 5th prince. We then catch a glimpse of the Guardian Sacred Beast. King Nasubi states that the spirit beasts cannot kill one another, and can't kill a human whom another spirit beast is protecting. While they provide protection, it's up for the princes to figure out how to kill one another. We then catch a glimpse of some of the other princes' sacred beast. Sarkov tells Theta that if Tserriednich is going to learn Nen at some point, that she should teach him a useless ability to lessen his potential for evil doings. Despite her reservations, she realizes she has no other option, since an evil mind will create evil Nen, and with her teaching him, she could possibly control that evil. Prince Lazarus and Tyson become aware of the Guardian Sacred Beast and the Nen. Prince Halkenberg then finds all his bodyguards unconscious on the floor. Theta is then confronted by Tserriednich's sacred beast. Of all the people, he's the one person that absolutely cannot be allowed to master Nen, thinks Theta. Prince Zhang, the 3rd prince, is told about the situation involving Prince Wobel's bodyguards. Camilla, the 2nd prince, asks for clarification about the rules of the game. The one sole survivor will be the official successor to the throne. How you might interpret that is all a part of the succession war. Benjamin pesters her, but she reveals her darker side. Just wishing something alone won't make it happen. This world is just way too unfair. Benjamin then tells his father that he shall protect the great and mighty tree of Kakin. Benjamin leaves in a fit of rage, vowing that he'll kill every last one of them. Balsa Milko urges him to wait until they figure out the rules of this survivor game before making a move. Since Benjamin can't see his Nen beast, they need to work on defensive strategies. In addition, because of Krapka's earlier announcement, all the other princes are aware of the presence of Nen users on the boat. Benjamin deduces that the younger princes and their hunter bodyguards are working together. Benjamin then brings forth his private soldiers to act as the other princes' royal bodyguards, and to report all their observations. The other princes, however, catch on to Benjamin's intentions. Meanwhile, Tserriednich begins his Nen training. One of Prince Benjamin's guards then arrives at Prince Wobel's quarters. Vincent, Prince Benjamin's personal soldier, kills one of the servants, claiming it was an act of self-defense. If you come any closer, I'll have to conclude that you're accomplices in the assassination plot of the 14th Prince Wobel, and I'll have to take self-defensive action. Krapka puts up his hands as Vincent asks him if he'll cooperate with him. Krapka then stares over at Prince Oito. Will you trust me, Prince Wobel, Queen Oito? I will trust you, no matter what happens. Krapka then throws a chain into her forearm, transferring the Little Eye ability to her. Vincent starts firing his gun as Bill activates his Nen for defensive measures. Vincent goes in for a Nen attack, but Krapka uses a chain to drain all his aura. Krapka and Bill then take the gun from Vincent and restrain him on the ground. Vincent attempts to deny his ill-doing, but Krapka intends to find out the truth with his ability. To avoid this, Vincent then commits suicide by biting down on a poisonous pill. Balsa Milko listens in on the conversation with the radio, but it eventually cuts out as Krapka figured out what was going on. Benjamin summons Baba Manya to take over for Vincent. Krapka wants to use Little Eye on Marion's pet hamster, but instead tells Oiko to use it on a fly or a mosquito to spy on the other princes. Krapka then mentions if he uses Emperor's time, every second that it's activated, it will shorten his life by 1 hour. They then receive phone calls from Benjamin, Heil-Ly, and Troupe as Baba Manya arrives at the door. Krapka wonders which phone call he should answer first. Krapka asks Shimano, the maid, to tell the soldier outside to wait as he asks to be connected with Prince Benjamin first. "This is a most exceptional honor, prioritizing me over Prince Benjamin," says Heil-Ly. Krapka angrily glares over at Shimano for connecting the wrong call. Heil-Ly wants Krapka to visit his room for an exchange of information. Krapka wants to bring Oito and Prince Wobble, which Heil-Ly agrees to. Krapka then finds out that Benjamin is already hung up. The second lieutenant major under Prince Troupe wants a truce in exchange for information on Nenbeast. After some disagreement, they agree to contact each other in 1 hour. Shimano states that Prince Benjamin cannot be reasoned with, and she doesn't want to die prematurely. He then asks her opinions about the soldier outside. She states that he'll look for a scenario in which he can construct a reasonable cause for Oito's suicide. Krapka tells Baba Manya that he's heading for the third prince's corridors. The soldier states he'll thusly wait in their room. Krapka, Oito, and Wobble encounter Baba Manya as they make their way to Heil-Ly's room. "Those are the fourth Prince Tserriednich's corridors," thinks Krapka. After entering Heil-Ly's room, Krapka begins to explain Nen and the guardian sacred beast. "Now, the information I'm about to give you is of extreme importance, enough to affect the outcome of the succession war," says Krapka. "Are you sure that you wish to have this conversation here?" Hanzo and Biscuit notice that Mariam's guardian beast has grown in size. One of Prince Momozi's royal guards is planning to kill her at an opportune moment. Prince Halkenberg wakes up, finding out that all his bodyguards are alive and well. Was that just a dream? But I was so sure. Prince Sail claims he'll change things at the next banquet. Lazarus smokes a healthy drug created by Basho, while Tyson talks about true world peace. Major heads to Wobble's room, as Troupe wonders how to get rid of the guard sent in by the higher-up queens. Tserriednich's Nen training goes very well. In fact, he's a genius at it. Heil-Ly then offers 2 of his personal guards to help Krapka in guarding Prince Wobble. Koven Toba tells Sokka to accompany Sakata and Hashido. Prince Camilla tells her mom that they'll kill Prince Benjamin first, and then Prince Halkenberg. She thusly orders her mom to get close to Prince Halkenberg. One of Prince Benjamin's soldiers listens in on the conversation with his Nen ability. He intends to gather physical evidence of the assassination plot. That way, they can confront her. Krapka returns with the new guards. Slaka and Baba Manya conspire to monitor on Heil-Ly's guards. Elsewhere on the boat, a man notices that Chrollo looks ready to kill someone. Mayor arrives at Prince Wobble's room. Krapka wants all the bodyguards present for the meeting to ensure the exchange of information is of equal value. Baba Manya wants the queen and prince present during the meeting as well. Shimano and I will look for a bug. If we find one, we'll capture it, thinks Bill. Mayor arrives in the room, ready to begin the conversation. And so the Nen Beasts are living beasts that possess Nen abilities, born from the jar ceremony. They use the prince's auras as their energy source, and since the princes are their host, they have a duty to protect them, says Krapka. Krapka then notices a cockroach on the wall. "I can't let this chance go, but I can't reveal or rather, the queen's power," says Krapka. Baba Manya notices that something seems off. Queen Oito instructs the guards to dispose of the bug post-haste. Krapka orders Bill to capture the cockroach with Nen. "I'll use that cockroach to showcase Nen," says Krapka. Of course, with a little falsehood thrown in. Krapka states that Bill will manipulate the cockroach with his Nen, but in reality, he'll create a distraction while Oito controls the cockroach. "Here I go," says Bill. Oito activates Little Eye as Bill fools everyone with his theatrics. Oito now has control of the target. Oito activates Little Eye as Bill fools everyone with his theatrics. Oito now has control of the target. She goes down to rest as Bill asks if they have any request. Baba Manya wants it to fly around the room and land on his finger. The cockroach follows all of Bill's commands. Krapka states that gaining the use of Nen in a short amount of time is possible. In fact, in 2 weeks, they could learn the very fundamentals. Furthermore, he will teach anyone who wishes to participate. Krapka deduces that Baba Manya is using N on the entire room, and he might eventually find out that it was in fact the queen who used the ability just now. Meanwhile, Oito uses the cockroach to look in on the 13th prince's room. Queen Oito writes down notes about the 13th prince's security detail. Due to Emperor's time being activated for an extended period of time, Krapka Krapka starts to feel a physical strain on his body. The cockroach makes its way to the 12th prince's room, as Oito sees a sight that horrifies her. Prince Momozee is being killed! You have to stop him, quick! Krapka tells her to calm down, but Oito is in no mood to listen to him, as she wants to save Momozee. Turns out Momozee was strangled to death, as Oito sobs on the bed. The 6 guards ordered to watch over Momozee are set to be court-martialed. Sakata then wonders why Momozee's guardian sacred beast didn't protect her. Guardian Sacred Beasts draw their power from the user, and if Momozee was sleeping, that means the beast was in a weakened state. Despite this being a survival contest, Oito still feels terrible that one of the other princes was killed. Bill tells Krapka they'll receive bodyguards from 10 of the other princes to monitor their actions. Bill states that the other princes will likely send multiple guards to learn Nen from Krapka, so Krapka decides to set a limit of 2 people. He then collapses to the ground, likely exhaustion from using Emperor's time. Hanzo beats himself up for not saving Prince Momozee. He deduces that the culprit used a clone to commit the murder, and he'll stop him next time. Over to Tserriednich, Theta says, I can't believe it. In just half a day, he's managed to gain a working command of Gyo. Tserriednich heard about the message from Prince Woble's guards, stating that he could teach Nen in just 2 weeks, which is vastly different from Theta's claim that it will take 6 months. You know, one thing I hate the most in this world is a lying bitch. So can I trust you? Says Tserriednich. Yes, replies Theta, as the guardian beast stares her down. It's been 18 hours since departure. Will there be a light at the end of the voyage? After resting for a bit, Krapka gets up and finds out that the queen passed out around the same time he did. Because Emperor's time has been running for the last 12 hours, Krapka lost about 5 years from his lifespan. Krapka determines that Emperor's time has a time limit of 3 hours of continuous use. Over that, then he blacks out. Krapka tells Oito to concentrate her efforts on monitoring Tserriednich for now. Despite her unease, she decides it's in the best interest of Prince Wobble to do so. Oito directs the cockroach to Tserriednich's room, but his sacred guardian beast blocks its path and eats it. Oito then deactivates the stealth dolphin. She then says, don't you think you can teach me Nen as well? Krapka states that since he transferred the Nen ability to Oito, it forcibly awakened her latent abilities. 16 people arrive at Prince Wobble's room to learn Nen from Krapka. Tserriednich commands his guards to kill everyone in the room if they do not learn Nen within 2 weeks. Just then, an unknown person says, I'll activate Silent Majority. The only people who can see Silent Majority's doll is a user and the one being possessed. Krapka calls out Muhan's coarse nature, claiming it's a reflection of Tserriednich's personality. Muhan becomes enraged, causing Krapka to pull out his gun. As an FYI, if Silent Majority fails to kill someone here, it will rebound and kill its user. Furikov determines that Krapka is a conjurer based on the way he held his gun with his non-dominant hand, keeping his dominant hand free so he could use his ability if need be. Meanwhile, Bill continues with Queen Oito's Nen training. Baba Manya then removes his N for unknown reasons. If someone distracts everyone's attention again, commence attack, says the unknown person. Krapka then says, among the 16 of you, is there anyone that can already use Nen? Please raise your hands. Furikov and Bellarane raise their hands. Labari wonders why they would attend as she looks over at Silent Majority. She's noticed. Excellent. Now go on. Get everyone's attention. Over there! Look! There's a weird woman standing right over there! Perfect. Attack! Berrigan begins to suffocate. It turns out there are 4 snakes in total that are surrounding his body, and they can suck the blood out of his entire body in 11 seconds. Sakata fires a gun at the snakes and tells everyone to get back. Bellarane then says, he could have still been breathing, but you're the one that killed him. Notice the heart at the end of this statement. Kind of familiar to someone else's speech bubbles, but that's a topic for another day. I've got to find out the assassin that's hiding among us, thinks Krapka. Labri is placed under arrest under suspicion of murdering Berrigan. The Supreme Court dispatches investigators to room 110. It is now the 2nd day of the voyage. Krapka denies the possession of weapons and gives everyone until 10 o'clock to decide if they want to stay. Krapka then uses his dowsing chain to confer that Bill and Shimano are not the culprits. He then contemplates the notion that if one prince withdrew from the succession, that all the sacred beasts might vanish. Krapka separates the guards into 3 groups, with Furikov and Bellarante supervising the proceedings. In Tier 5, a mafia group asks for payment for the cafeteria. The Phantom Troupe appear and easily defeat them. It turns out that the 3rd prince is affiliated with the Shuyu family, the 4th prince with the Ai family, and the 7th prince with the Shuei family. On the next collection day, which is Saturday, the Phantom Troupe plans to meet with the kickback collector so they can gain access to the higher tiers. You find guys above 190 centimeters and write down their room number, says Finks. Elsewhere, Chrollo meets Machi. All the members of the spider want to kill Hisoka, and Chrollo is certain that he's on the ship. King Nasubi stares at the corpse of Momozi, saying she's become the foundation for the Great Tree of Kakin. Several people in Kurapika's training program can use Nen, but are not self-aware that they can do so. Queen Psycho refuses to answer any of the court's questions, as she's placed under 72-hour surveillance. Biscuit and Hanzo notice that Miriam's Nen beast is growing bigger, and, what's more, at an accelerated pace, due to Momozi's death. Hanzo creates a double with his Nen ability, which is called Hanzo Skill 4. He then avenges Prince Momozi's death, attempting to make it look like a suicide. Tyson's guardian spirit avoids Prince Benjamin's soldier. Kurapika ends his training session with the guards. Hinrigh, Prince Halkenberg's guard, explains that the prince found them all unconscious, and a feather mark appeared on the back of all their hands. The guards have no memory of losing consciousness, though. Kurapika states that this is the work of a manipulator who can manipulate memory. Kurapika determines that Hinrigh is in a state of half-awakening with his aura. Kurapika states that the lower-rank princes need to band together, otherwise, they risk getting picked off one by one. I'll make an appeal to the other princes through the Hunter Association. Hanzo notices that his body is missing along with Biscuit. He then notices that Miriam's Nen beast is smaller, but more menacing. The beast then readies an attack. Camilla is heading out to kill Prince Benjamin. You assist me, or you die here. Lady Camilla, this is not my idea of a joke, says Musa. Turns out he recorded their entire conversation, and will shoot her if she takes one step closer. Camilla uses Zetsu to conceal her aura. Musa fires his gun at her, killing her on the spot. Is she dead? Just then, an enormous cat surrounds Muse's body. It squishes him and uses its tail to revive Prince Camilla. The cat that's lived 1,000,000 lives. After death, it activates, taking the attacker's life and using it to resurrect its owner. She orders her guards to burn Muse's belongings. On her way to room 1001, Camilla shoots down the 2 guards. Well, Furikov managed to evade death using his Nen. Camilla confronts Benjamin, firing several bullets at him. Benjamin defends himself with his aura. Furikov arrests Camilla, but she claims she'll torture his entire family. He claims that he has no family, except for Prince Benjamin. Muse's Nen ability was activated on Camilla, which transmits all her words and actions to him. Since he died though, his ability was transferred to Prince Benjamin through his Nen ability. His ability is called Benjamin Baton. He receives the ability of his loyal soldiers who died in battle. Hanzo attempted to get into Momozi's corridors, but he's blocked off. He then visits Kurapika. Shimano receives a call from the commander of the 13th Prince's bodyguards. Hanzo rushes back to find them, but unfortunately, no one is there. The man on the phone, Welge, wants to ask Kurapika something. Hanzo returns to Kurapika, reporting that room 1013 is empty. Kurapika determines that the living quarters for the 13th Prince has been transported through the use of Nen. Welge brushes this off and demands info regarding the 12th Prince's assassination. Kurapika states he knows the culprit, as Welge agrees to have the Hunter Association investigate the outside of the door. Unfortunately, he was lying, and doesn't believe a word that Kurapika is saying. Kurapika reveals that the culprit was Tufty, and he committed suicide. Kurapika tells Sakata about the situation in room 1013. It's been 37.5 hours since departure, and the craziness is just beginning. There's a detailed chart for each prince, and there's security detail for completeness. You can look this over on your own time. A Nen door appears before Prince Fugetsu, leading her through a tunnel that ends at Prince Kacho's bed. Melody notices Kacho's irregular heartbeat and checks in on her. She then offers to teach her about Nen. Rihan, Prince Benjamin's soldier assigned to Prince Sail, analyzes the prince's Nen beast. It exhales white smoke, and the more you breathe it in, the more favor you gain for the prince. Rihan decides to use his predator ability, which, once he chooses a target, a predator begins to grow inside of him. The strength of the predator comes from how well he analyzes his target's abilities. Zhongli's sacred beast ejects a coin out of its mouth, with the number 1 inscribed upon it. No one knows where the coin came from, except for Koventoba, Prince Benjamin's guard. Prince Tyson's Eyewogs collect aura from its host, and in return, bestow happiness to them. Their amount of happiness is transformed into passionate readership, and following the teachings of Tyson. If they break the teachings of Tyson, harsh punishment shall be dealt. Prince Camilla's Nen beast allows her to control people when certain conditions are met. Prince Tubepa's Nen beast can synthesize various drugs and chemicals. Lazarus's beast can conjure a trap based on its target's desire. Shikaku, Prince Benjamin's soldier assigned to Halkenberg, surmises that when Halkenberg's guards synchronize themselves, they're able to create a massive amount of aura. Halkenberg's Nen beast allows for a group to exceed their limitations through symbiotic fellowship. Shikaku wants to eliminate Halkenberg, but his Nen Beast has been keeping a constant watch. The beast also has the ability to erase and rewrite memories. Shikaku requests 2 more people to help with Prince Halkenberg. Halkenberg then goes to appeal to his father to stop the succession war. If another victim is claimed while I sit by and do nothing, it's the same as if I just let them die. Prince Fugetsu can't materialize the Nendor from before. Hanzo's ethereal body returns to its original, as Biscuit scolds him for staying up all night watching over it. Verge asks Queen Savente not to send Bellarine to Karapka's Nen training after Behringer's death. Biscuit and Hanzo offer to teach the workers Nen, but Verge disbelieves magic tricks. Biscuit showcases her Nen ability to him. Verge then marvels at her beautiful body, and requests that she teach him Nen. He then agrees to have Bellarine go to Karapka's training. Biscuit then determines they're inside a one-way Nen space. Bellarine confirms this by stepping outside the room. When he attempts to return, his body begins to disappear. This is likely due to Mariam's Nen Beast. Therefore, Biscuit decides to begin their Nen training, while Bellarine goes to Karapka's room. Halkenberg passes a letter to one of his father's guards. He'll come back again tomorrow to do the same thing until he can see his father in person. Benjamin and Camilla are tried by the Supreme Magistrate. Camilla's captain of guards claims the killing of Musa and Wolfa was a case of self-defense. Cleopatra orders a search of both rooms 1001 and 1002 by the royal guards. Because of Musa's ability, Benjamin can watch Camilla's every move. Muhan is then killed by silent majority. Bellarine defends Karapka by stating that Muhan was careless. After defending him against the growing suspicions, he has to borrow Bill for 10 minutes to report information to Hanzo, Vergai, and the others in room 1013. Prince Kacho and Melody use a device that allows them to converse Morse code. Another coin is ejected from Zhang Li's guardian beast. When the owner of the coin satisfies the conditions, multiple abilities shall be invoked. Fugetsu's Nen door opens up again, which makes her realize it only appears once per day, or every 24 hours. She wants to perform a series of investigations to determine all the ins and outs of this magical ability. With my magic, I'll go save Kacho. A guard informs Tserriednich that Muhan was killed. Danjin wants to continue his training regardless, since he has a positive impression of Karapka. Tserriednich considers the possibility that the Nen training is a condition to activate the ability that killed Muhan. After his training is done, Tserriednich wants Danjin to bring a gift to prove he is of sound mind. Theta wants to finish Tserriednich's Zetsu in 11 days. Tserriednich then performs the water divination test, finding out that he's a specialist, an especially sinister one. Kacho communicates with Melody that she wants to escape off the boat next Sunday with her sister Fugetsu. Kini tells Melody that someone appeared in Kacho's bed, and it most likely was Fugetsu, with some sort of transportation ability. Melody thinks they can all escape with this ability, but she worries that Kacho's guardian sacred beast still hasn't shown itself. Meanwhile, the Phantom Troupe gathers together to discuss their hunt for Hisoka. By the way, the newest member of the Spiders is Illumi Zoldyck. Each of the Kaken's 3 mafias control one of the general passenger tiers. To move between these tiers, one needs official means through the royal army, or unofficial means through the mafia. Chrollo then instructs Illumi to introduce himself. Hello, I'm Illumi. On Hisoka's request, I have joined the Spiders. Hisoka had contracted me to kill himself. Upon killing him, he'll attain a reward. A group from the Cha-Ar mob family tells Chrollo and his crew to leave, but he declines. Cha-Ar heard about the actions in Yorknu and wants to work together with them. He'll give him a ticket to move freely between the floors, but Chrollo is not interested in joining their mafia. Chrollo states he'll head to the first floor, but wishes to kill Hisoka first. I want to have a party, but there's no cake. Once you get it, we'll all meet again, and we'll all dine together at the table. Now, bring me Hisoka's head. The Spiders split up, except for Bono and Shizuku, who choose to team up with the boss. Bono reveals an ability that allows him to transform into various things. Shizuku wants Chrollo to read her fortune to uncover some clues, but he no longer possesses that ability, implying that Neon is now dead. That's quite a callback, but if you don't remember, she's from the York New York. That book of yours, boss. It's pretty much like a death note, isn't it? We then see the heads of the mafia, who all have scars on their face, due to being the illegitimate half-brothers of Nasubi. They instruct their respective lieutenants to find and kill Hisoka before the Phantom Troupe. Kenny Wang offers 10 million to anyone with useful information, and another 10 million to whoever finds Hisoka. Just find him, then I'll take it from there. The illegitimate daughter of Nasubi, Morena, wants to tear everything to the ground. Her Nen ability, Contagion, allows the 23 people she infects, including herself, to increase their Nen capacity and power through killing others. If they pass level 20, their own unique ability develops, and upon reaching 100, they become capable of creating their own community. Regular people are worth 1 level, and Nen users are worth 10. If you kill a prince, you will gain 50 levels. Thanks to this scar, I have found my balance. In order to rip down this shithole of a world, I have found some will to live. The Cha-R family controls Deck 5, the Shiyu family controls Deck 4, and the Heil-Ly family controls Deck 3. The Heil-Ly family mediates deals with the upper decks. The Shiyu family focuses on the distribution of people and goods, and the Cha-R family controls commodities on the 5th deck. Nobunaga, Finks, and Phaeton head to the warehouse in Deck 5 to retrieve their weapons. A mafia soldier leads them in, but ends up going down a dead end and is later found dead. Mizai questions the lone witness to the murders. The suspect in question ordered her outside of the bathroom, and she complied out of fear. The suspect then locked himself inside the bathroom, and when the army opened up the door, he was gone. Mizai notes that a rat wouldn't fit through the toilet drain pipes, let alone a human. Mizai wonders why the culprit would leave a witness behind, but tells her to go back to her room anyway. Turns out her name is Cashew, and she's part of the Heil-Ly organization. In a flashback, Cashew conspired with Luini to cover up the incident by mixing truths with lies. Luini's ability requires that he be in a single room with the door closed. Once activated, he can open up the floor or the wall of the room and travel to another location. He can return to the original room, but if the door is open, his abilities reset. At the warehouse, Finks, Nobunaga, and Phaeton discover that the guards have all vanished. They see a trail of blood, and Nobunaga determines whoever did this wants a confrontation to break out amongst them. Upon thinking about it, Nobunaga says, without a doubt, that was someone playing games with us. The three follow the blood to a corridor with a locked door. Wang, the underboss of the Cha-R family, blocks their escape. Were you the ones that attacked our warehouse keepers? Meanwhile, Franklin makes no attempt to search for Hisoka, since he's aiming to kill them anyway. He then says Hisoka wasn't their only reason for boarding the ship, as they're here to steal something else. Wang is then given a radio update of what happened, and now believes that the culprit is a hitman from another family. Fink suggests that the culprit has some sort of spatial transportation Nen ability. Wang wants to crush the Phantom Troupe, but on the surface, he offers an alliance. Mizai states that the killing wasn't done because of cabin fever, but for sacrificial reasons. He suspects that the killings have something to do with the seed urn ceremony for the succession of the next king. Mizai states that the princes are granted immunity for all of their actions, except for killing other princes. To enhance their powers, the killings will continue. If left unchecked, paranoia and fear will set in, leading to the Black Whale's demise. Because of the lack of security on the lower decks, they need to act quickly to end the serial killings. The fuse that burns towards destruction. Somehow, I get the feeling it's much shorter than I ever imagined. Wang shows the three spiders the photograph of the man who entered the warehouse, but it yields no results. Nobunaga offers to catch the culprit, in exchange for seeing what's inside the vault. The troupe finds out they'll pair up with Sudanki and his squad. Sudanki is taken aback by the spiders and wonders if he can get an autograph from them. We then see a general layout of the ship and where all the important parties are located. I'll let you study this on your own time. It is now the 4th day of the voyage. An announcement states a stowaway is in possession of a dangerous weapon. Therefore, everyone is instructed to stay inside of their rooms. The military combs the area and tells Illumi and Kaluto to raise their hands. They show their tickets, and Mizuri wonders why a VVIP like him is in the lower tiers. Illumi states he's here on business. Mizai then says, "The spiders, are they here aboard?" "Yes, all of them," says Illumi. Mizai offers them a place to stay as he worries about the presence of the spiders. Are the spiders after revenge against Kurapika? Should I tell Kurapika or not? Someone tells Mizai that someone was found without an ID. He tells Botobai and Ginta to take care of the Zoldycks for now. Mizai then enters the interrogation room to find Prince Fugetsu. Fugetsu has no intentions of talking unless it's to Prince Kacho. Melody receives a phone call from one of Mizai's men, confirming her suspicion that Fugetsu has a teleportation ability. He warns her to keep a close eye on the two as they might be planning an escape. She then relays the information to Kini. Fugetsu thinks about how her twin and her are two parts of the same whole. Fugetsu returns to her mother, but she's placed under 72 hours of surveillance. Melody performs Heil's Requiem for Kacho and her mother. Queen Psycho asks Melody to perform this piece at the upcoming banquet. The supervisor tells Melody in private that he wants her help, and hopes that the king will change his mind about the succession war. Melody analyzes his heartbeat, considering the possibility that he's being manipulated by Nen. Rihan determines that Prince Sailsail's guardian beast takes effect after 70 hours from the inhalation. The clones of the Nen beast also release smoke, and because it manipulates the affections of others, it's only a matter of time before he has control over the hearts of the entire kingdom. Rihan brings forth the predator, and it consumes the small clone and Sailsail's guardian beast in just one bite. Rihan can't use Nen abilities for the next 48 hours. so he requests to switch places with Yoshihei. Yoshihei, after all, is more suited for assassinations. Yoshihei reports that Fugetsu has a teleportation ability. Because he held back his N, he did not notice that Fugetsu escaped. He did, however, attach a stinger ball to her. He then receives the order to switch places with Rihan. It is now day 5. The stowaway has been captured, and everyone can leave their rooms again. Prince Halkenberg and 5 of his guards pull their weapons out on the security guards in his father's chambers. Halkenberg enters the chambers. "Let's end this, father. You consented to the ceremony, who? No one ever said anything about it being a death match." Halkenberg gives him an ultimatum, but his father states that the succession war is out of his hands at this point. "Through revolution, I will stop this royal succession war myself. Farewell, father." The bullet stops in midair. King Nasubi states he cannot die until the ceremony is complete. The king's butler states that Halkenberg and his men will not be punished for the incident. Halkenberg attempts to commit suicide, but his Nen beast catches the bullet. King Nasubi reminds him that this war is a choice between protecting his siblings or the people of Kakin. "If you say we don't need a king, then become king first. Then say that." Benjamin informs Shikaku about what happened, but tells him that the king is safe. Benjamin informs him to kill Halkenberg and take his ability. Shikaku activates Coldcept, forming a card to protect himself. Halkenberg fires an arrow at Shikaku, piercing through his shield. Though the arrow can't be intercepted or blocked, it requires the exchange of the will of one of his men. "Prince, give me your command," says Shikaku, as we see the specter of the dead guard standing behind him. "This is the second time that along with a rumbling came a massive swelling of powerful aura," says Kurapika. Despite his concerns, he reminds himself to stay calm, and to avoid being his own worst enemy. Elsewhere, Prince Sail appears to be dead. It is now the 8th day of the voyage, 8 p.m., and the banquet begins. "So it's finally the day of the banquet. 90 minutes until we carry out our plan," thinks Melody. The first and second prince are not in attendance for the banquet. Various performances are seen. The servants who left room 1013 won't be able to return to the Nen space. Biscuit wants to move the hunters to the real room to take the load off of the servants. Miriam takes a liking to Biscuit as the two play with each other. Kacho, Fugetsu, and Melody are next up to perform. Melody begins her performance, which metaphorically transports everyone to a serene mountain with wild flowers. As she plays, Kini takes the twins to the lifeboats. "Go! Hurry!" says Kini. "Thank you," replies the twins. The lifeboat takes off as Kini looks down at a picture of his wife and daughter. They died 2 years ago, and he's been searching for a suitable place to die ever since. Kini thusly shoots himself in the head. "We're almost at the exit! The plan worked!" Unfortunately, a mysterious presence prevents them from exiting the ship. Fugetsu forms a door and goes inside. She panics when she doesn't see her sister, but Kacho opens up the door. The two make their way back to the ship through the tunnel. Turns out their Nen beasts are cooperative. Fugetsu controls the departing trip, and Kacho controls the return trip. Kacho's Nen beast is called Without You. If one of the two dies, it takes the form of the deceased one and stays with the other until death. And as it turns out, the real Kacho is dead on the boat, so Fugetsu is with the Nen beast. A flashback prior to the banquet shows Wang introducing Tahao to the 3 members of the Phantom Troupe. Tahao is the vice boss to the Cha-Ar family, and the military advisor to Lazarus's army. There's over 300 missing workers, and Wang believes that the hitman from Tier 3 is the one responsible. Fink says they're looking for Hisoka, but if they allow them, they can eliminate the hitman for them. Fink says the hitman has a teleportation ability, and he's interested in this door. It turns out that this door is the one that leads to the upper decks. Tserriednich might be worried about Morena, since she recently took over as the boss. Tahoe states that if Morena is not on deck 1, then an all-out conflict will ensue. That's because mafia bosses must strike a deal with one another within 24 hours, if they're on their own turf. But if they're not on their own turf, they are exempt. And it's been 2 days since the first murder, so if she's not on deck 1, it's trouble. If the spiders take out the hitman, they'll be at war with the Heil-Ly family. Nobunaga says if they kill Morena, this might make Tserriednich happy, and he'll be grateful to them, which could work out to their advantage. Wang and Tahao worry about the plan though. The 3 illegitimate heirs live in lavish estates that are in line with the queen's. However, they are bound to be obedient to the royal authority. Tserriednich confirms that Morena is not in her lavish corridors, and has probably been in the lower tiers since they boarded. Tserriednich tells his guards to search for Morena in the lower decks. He then resumes his Nen training, conjuring a specialist Nen beast. He now has a guardian sacred beast and a Nen beast he can conjure on his own. Theta wants to push his limits, and stresses that mastery of Zetsu is the key to mastering Nen. Theta wants him to shut off his aura for an hour, but the Guardian Sacred Beast gives her a menacing glare. I'm not lying about anything. Now get out of my way. Tserriednich begins training as Theta thinks, like this. I could still do it. Tomorrow. Tserriednich practices Zetsu as Theta contemplates how she'll off him. After a brief distraction, the prince enters his Zetsu once again. Theta sends a small bubble of aura toward him, but he doesn't notice. Theta draws her gun, lamenting the fact that the prince wasn't a kinder person, since he has immense talent, and it would be interesting to see how he cultivates it. She then fires a single bullet through Tserriednich's head. And then, I will be following along right after. The prince's body disappears as the guards tell Theta not to move. This was just part of our training. There's no issue here, says Tserriednich. Well, Theta, how was my Zetsu? I didn't even flinch to your gunshot, right? Theta collapses to the ground in a state of panic. The next time that you answer the prince's questions falsely, you will cease to exist as a human, says the Guardian Sacred Beast. A guard tells Tserriednich that time skipped during the musical performance, and the prince wants to invite Melody to his corridors. Theta has a nightmare of Prince Tserriednich. Upon waking up, Salkov shows her what the beast did to her face. Salkov says that if she goes against the warning, a fate worse than death awaits her. Likely, the beast is keeping her around to use her as a pawn in the future. Theta realizes what she saw earlier was not reality, but she's not sure though when the illusion began. An investigator questions Melody about the incident with the twins. Through his questioning, Melody determines she's being kept here to keep safe from the dangerous princes. The twins will also be questioned in extensive detail until the truth is revealed. In Halkenberg's estate, they analyze the brainwaves of Sumidori, the man that was sacrificed by Halkenberg. They posit that he possessed Shikaku's body, but wonder what happened to Shikaku's consciousness. Halkenberg comes up with 4 possibilities. Halkenberg has found a new resolve to compete in the succession war. He shares a hypothesis with his men, but we, as the readers, are left in the dark. He then asks if Sumidori can do something for him, which he agrees to. He heads to Lazarus's corridors, saying, "Long live Prince Benjamin!" and he thusly shoots himself in the head. Benjamin hears about the suicide. He recalls Conjidal from room 1007. In Halkenberg's corridors, Sumidori wakes up, with the prince requesting his affiliation and his ID number. At Krapka's Nen class, they feel the rumbling of aura, and determine it's either coming from Prince 9, 7, or 5. Krapka determines it's an emitter, and wonders what could be going on. He then begins the water divination ceremony. He tells everyone to keep their abilities concealed, saying it's top secret. Therefore, water divination will be done in a separate room, with only Bill, Krapka, and the person doing the divination. Sotobi objects to this, but Krapka explains that the information on their Nen abilities is being exchanged for the training they're receiving. If they cannot accept this condition, they can leave right now. Baba Manya says Rihan is focusing on Tubepa's Nen Beast, but Furikov says that Tubepa's refusing to show himself. Prince Wobel's Nen Beast still hasn't shown itself. Elsewhere, Salkov can't believe that Tserriednich is progressing so quickly. By the way, recently, I've been surprised at the changes in my own state of mind. I just find two-faced women so cute. We now have a flashback to Tserriednich's Zetsu training, but this time from his perspective. He notes that he can turn off his nodes slowly to maintain stability. Okay, I've closed all. Eh? The hell is this? Theta asks what's on his left shoulder, just like before. He starts again. A dream? What the hell was that? Tserriednich is stimulated awake with the same question. He asks if she noticed anything strange just now. The flow of the conversation makes no sense. Theta's words are exactly the same as I heard in the dream just now. Tserriednich determines that he just saw a prophetic vision. He noticed that when he heard a static noise, that was the start of his vision. He closes his eyes as the vision starts again. As long as he maintains Zetsu, the vision continues. The first 10 seconds right after the ability's activation is 10 seconds in a flash. It foretells the 10 seconds starting from the ability's activation. And when the 10 seconds in the flash is over, the vision of the world 10 seconds in the future continues in real time. Theta drops a cup of coffee to startle him, which he sees 10 seconds before it actually happens. Here's my theory. Only I can change my foretold future. The same events occur in reality, but Tserriednich maintains his Zetsu. She tells him to do it again. He enters Zetsu as his Nen Beast begins to vanish. He predicts the ball of aura she throws at him. He then opens his eyes and begins talking to her. He then wants to see how long he can maintain this. He notices her drawing her gun, wondering what she's doing. He quickly moves out of the way, but from Theta's perspective, he's still standing there. The hell is with this power? This is so much fun! The event plays out like before. Tserriednich is blown away again. Well, figuratively speaking. He sees the guards come in, and says he'll ask Data about her reasons for doing this at a later date. The guards tell Tserriednich about the time skip, as he requests that Melody come over. He contemplates his ability, 10 seconds in a flash, comparing it to a parallel world. He can also use this ability in succession. However, it still takes time to activate his Zetsu, and he has to maintain his concentration. As long as I can master Zetsu, I will conquer this succession war. Sotobi, Mayor, and Longhee worry about giving Kurapika full reign like this. Furikov states that if Kurapika tries to manipulate anyone through Nen, they'll arrest him here on the spot. Baba Manya considers the possibility that Kurapika can semi-force open a person's nodes, which means that he could mix his aura with the user. It's also possible he's misleading them to cover for Bill, who could possibly be the real master manipulator. Ladiolis' aura has increased dramatically in a short period of time. Kurapika tells everyone to keep the results private until after the testing is done. Mayor, you're next. Mayor walks up to the table with the glasses of water on it. Kurapika is using this test to determine that the Nen abilities have been awakened in him. Inside the cup is a plant seed, which is irregular for this type of test. Although Nen is usually acquired slowly, one can forcibly acquire it by receiving a Nen attack. Kurapika clarifies that this is taboo, and attacks can also entail healing abilities and lending abilities. Bill is an enhancer type user, so he can hasten growth in his target. The seed then starts growing rapidly. Kurapika will borrow Bill's ability and lend it to Mayor. The process will semi-force Nen abilities to awaken in someone with them. Mayor exits the room with a notable increase in his aura. Baba Manya determines that Nen awakening is one of Kurapika's abilities, but he likely has more, one for each of the chains on his finger. Mayor is startled by his levels of vitality. Baba Manya wonders how far Kurapika will take this training. Kurapika gives Yuri Bill's ability through Stealth Dolphin. This ability is being lent and is not her own, but now she's been awakened. Kurapika wants to run this class a second and a third time, and wants her to relay the message to Prince Kacho and Queen Psycho. Bill thinks this newfound power will corrupt some people, and that power could eventually come back to bite them. Kurapika thanks Bill for revealing his ability. Hashito and Sakata burst in. Hashito wants to take the test to protect his prince, but Kurapika denies, saying that he hasn't learned the basics yet. Sakata then considers doing the basic training, considering how important Nen is. Mayor returns to Tubepa, informing him that the 14th prince and the 3rd prince are in a tight alliance, and that the Nen training actually worked. Rihan notes that Tubepa's Nen beast still hasn't shown itself. Rihan notices Mayor's huge leap in ability due to Kurapika's training. He contemplates going after Kurapika, but worries that he has 5 abilities that could counter the Predator. Balsamilka worries about Rihan, but can't give him any advice, as that would reduce the effectiveness of his Predator. He then wonders why Shikaku would commit suicide. Tubepa thinks that Sail is dead, considering he's a fame whore and would not miss out on the live performance at the banquet. She is thusly focused on finding out the cause of the death, and gives a flash drive to one of her assistants. She'll have to move carefully to avoid suspicion, though. She worries that Mayor isn't experienced enough to deal with the Nen threat, and thusly realizes that Kurapika might be an ideal ally. It is day 10, and Kurapika felt the 4th rumble. And what's more, the interval between the rumbles is shortening. A flashback to 10 AM on the 9th day shows Kanjido reporting the events that transpired in Lazarus' corridors. He explains that Shikaku shouted, "Long live Prince Benjamin," and fired a gun against his temple. It is assumed that Shikaku was forced to do this against his will. Balsamilko agrees with this assessment for the most part, but has 3 problems with it. To reach Prince Benjamin, Prince Halkenberg would have to blast through rooms 11 and 13 to reach him. Second, he worries why suicide was chosen, given that he could have used it to assassinate one of the other princes. And 3, can fellow princes actually kill one another in the first place? Balsamilka determines that Nen beasts cannot kill each other. Being a manipulator, Shikaku should have manipulated himself first to block the enemy's attack. To determine why the suicide happened, Balsamilka orders Kanjidal to keep a close eye on the actions surrounding room 1007. We're now in the present again. Benjamin and Balsamilka feel the 4th rumble. Suddenly, a voice that keeps breaking up on the radio says, "It's not working at all, and Prince Halkenberg is invincible." Benjamin assumes that Halkenberg's power comes from using his whole team. Balsamilka deduces that it involves sacrificing one of his men. Benjamin wonders if he should transport Muse's owl from Camilla to Halkenberg, but Balsamilka advises against it. 5 men from a National Naval Regulation Board, including Steiner, confine Halkenberg. With him separated from his men, this could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to eliminate him. In Tyson's quarters, Guilano is seen reading the Book of Tyson. Aizunavi warns him against getting too attached, and that their job includes protecting her until they get to the new continent. Guilano begins his shift as he's welcomed with a birthday cake and applause. In Lazarus' corridors, Conjadal is unsuccessful in getting information from the other guards. He theorizes about a possible scenario in which Shikaku killed himself. He concludes that Halkenberg is a great danger and worries that he might get through courts unscathed. He bemoans the democratic process and says that if it was up to him, he'd pull the trigger and think about the excuse later. He then approaches Basho. Basho states that Duazel's men are plotting something and that they need to be watched closely. He also says that Duazel's men are hiding their men. Through an internal monologue, Basho reveals that he was providing false information and believes that there's an ability that activates through Shikaku taking his own life. Camilla sits under surveillance in the VVIP quarters. "I swear, I will curse you to death," says one of Camilla's guards as she looks at a picture of Benjamin. The Kaken had a tradition in the past named sacrificial burials, involving afterlife companions. The companions would supervise princes in the afterlife, preventing them from torturing or cursing the king of Kaken. These companions were part of the Untouchables, the lowest rung on the ladder of the caste system. With the afterlife program gone, Camilla gave the Untouchables a chance to join the military through her private guard. These assassins are assigned to the various princes, and curse them whenever they get the chance. Sarael, the Camilla guard assigned to Prince Wobel, wonders who they should target first. The 2 Untouchables who are assigned to Momozi and Sail are instructed to find out if the enemy have any Nen Exorcist. Plus, cursing the princes will be difficult, since they have Nen Beast. Sarael wants to attend Karapka's next round of Nen classes, and curse Prince Wobel while she's there. Zhang gives a coin to Temftari for completing his Nen training, claiming that he's the first one to receive one. Koven Toba thought he was the first one to receive a coin, and notices that the number on his coin now says 10 instead of 1. It turns out Temftari also has a coin with the number 10 on it. Zhang wonders what kind of Nen power will be bestowed to him, but all he can do now is sit and wait. He suspects, though, that it won't reach its maximum effectiveness until he's king. Zhang then greets the boss of the Shu Yu family. He comments that he's already lost 3 siblings, but Onir states that when Nasubi did it, he was the only survivor. Zhang inquires about the guardian beast and Nen. Onir says that good luck sleeps and waits. Onir calls Hinrigh, instructing him to search for Hisoka and kill Morena, the boss of the Heil-Ly family. The resistance begins. "We're gonna crush the Heil-Ly," says Hinrigh. Him and his compatriots go on a manhunt. Lynch and Zakaru question a Heil-Ly member, but he distracts them as another one slashes Zakaru's neck. Hinrigh finds out the Heil-Ly are registered as civilians, and if they harm one, the military will be forced to act. "That bitch you got in charge ain't gonna get away with breaking the rules." Zakaru activates his Nen, Bloody Mary, to subdue the Heil-Ly member. Lynch uses body and soul to question the other member while giving him a thrashing. Hinrigh uses biohazard to turn the soldiers' guns into snakes, and subsequently blows off their heads. Hinrigh returns to his comrades as a soldier informs them that he's willing to look the other way, provided they never return to Tier 3 again. Hinrigh pays off the guards, but it's not long before they're in for a nasty surprise. A scheme that ended in friendly fire. Now, as many of the passengers are wondering what just happened, Lynch and Zakaru decide that they're going to continue searching for Hisoka. Hinrigh says that he'll be counting on them, however, he does not want them to act without his say-so. Meanwhile, he plans on trying to luring out some of the Heil-Ly members while he tracks down the girl. Lynch and Zakaru then enter a corridor, and Zakaru uses his ability and causes numerous drops of blood to move along the wall. And it turns out that the blood has tiny eyes on it, and he's using it to find Hisoka. Meanwhile, we see Hinrigh walking with a bunch of pigeons. Hinrigh then confiscates a video camera for his own interest. Hinrigh uses his biohazard ability to transform the camcorder into a small cat, which allows the cat to still have the ability to video record stuff for Hinrigh. We then see that 3 Heil-Ly members have spotted Hinrigh and want to take him down. "He's all alone, the bastard is underestimating us. He doesn't stand a chance if it's 3 against 1. One of the members then transforms his hand into a hammer and says that nothing beats the tingling feeling when you're about to take a life. He then states that he will do anything for him and Morena. However, when he goes in for the attack, he notices that a handcuff goes around his hand, and that a pigeon is attached to the other side. He blocked me by handcuffing me to a pigeon! The pigeon on the other side turns into a handcuff and locks up both of his hands from the rear. The other two Heil-Ly members come in, however, Hinrigh has many other pigeons that he can use. The two members start shooting, but the pigeons come in for defense. Normal bullets aren't gonna cut it. They're made from plain old handcuffs, but they're reinforced with Nen. The member with the hammer then transforms his hand into a drill, allowing him to escape and go after Hinrigh. With little time, Hinrigh is forced to block with his hand. However, it goes through very painfully. Another pigeon locks onto his foot with a handcuff, and then locks that one onto his hand. I'll chop them up with my axe! A stupid chain can't stop me! However, Hinrigh catches his hand and says, that ain't happening. Hinrigh finishes up the job as the other two Heil-Ly members decide to escape and decide to report back to Morena. Soldiers then try to calm down the civilians, as we see that Heil-Ly, the man that was just killed, seems to still be alive. The soldiers then approach the two, and Heil-Ly says that everything is okay. Heil-Ly is then free to go as we see him walk away. One of the soldiers then approaches Hinrigh and says, how much are you willing to fork over for the location of the Heil-Ly boss? And he says about 50 million. The soldier then demands 30 million up front that is non-negotiable. Hinrigh then agrees to the demands and says that he'll fetch the money. We then see Misha Hao on Heil-Ly, an ex-member of the Shiyu family who uses post-mortem Nen ability. Apparently she's referred to as the zombie girl. Her ability manifested after she died. Whenever a family member is involved in a killing, she appears to inconspicuously dispose of the body. Once that's accomplished, she vanishes. Lynch and Zakru then find a man that they believe to be Hisoka. Lynch decides to punch the man in the abdomen, and he curls up into a ball. The Shiyu is on a manhunt. Get in the way and you're dead, says Lynch. The two then continue looking around until they run into a man that looks like Hisoka. Hey, you Hisoka? You are, says the man. Lynch. You? She then goes to punch him in the abdomen, however, she's the one that gets knocked out. Oops, my bad. I couldn't help slipping in a counterblow. So, what are you after? A nervous Zakru then tells Hisoka that their family is searching for him. If you want to know more, why not follow me? Hisoka then smiles in a devilish fashion. Elsewhere on the ship, an old woman tells Sudanki that gunshots were apparently heard in Area East Plaza. He then asks if she has any autograph paper, but she says she only stocks items like tobacco, alcohol, and drugs. It turns out that he wants to get an autograph from the Phantom Troupe. The woman tells him that he could try a general store on Tier 1, revealing that they can have requested items delivered to the ship. However, you have to know someone from the upper classes to be able to do this service. Sudanki then regroups with the Cha-Ar family, stating that he has to find Hisoka in 4 days so that he can ask for autograph paper as his reward. Kenny then addresses his men, telling them to look for more information up to Area C, if necessary, and to report their findings to the Troupe, back at the office. Kenny Wang then wonders if it's better to leave the Troupe to the Heil-Ly family and to focus on finding Hisoka. And as it turns out, Wang is very concerned about Hisoka, as he's aware of him being a floor master at Heaven's Arena. Ideally, what he wants to do is he wants to sit back while the Phantom Troupe and the Heil-Ly fight each other. And if Hisoka is capable of destroying the Phantom Troupe, it would make his job that much easier. Now, inside the Cha-Ar family office in Tier 5, we see Nobunaga, Finks, and Phaeton. They then take a look at the monitors and see an arm that is coming through and is knocking on the door. And it turns out that Luini is just messing with them. Now, as they go into the room, they notice that no one is there. However, a portal is then created in which we see Luini. This isn't like you. It isn't like you at all. You're supposed to betray the Cha-Ar head to the upper decks and murder all those filthy rich bastards. And then he states that the rumors of them being a band of brutal thieves wasn't accurate. And then Nobunaga pulls out his sword, and he looks like he's about to show him no mercy right here. Now, Luini indicates that he doesn't want to fight with the Phantom Troupe. The only reason that he's here is to take out the Cha-Ar family. Then he'll move on to the Shiyu family, and finally, the royal family itself. After this is all completed, they'll take control of the ship and wreak havoc on the old world. And to do all this, he wants to band together with the Phantom Troupe and burn the world to the ground. And in an instant, Nobunaga takes his sword and drives it right through Luini's forehead. Sorry, I ain't got a clue what you're talking about. If you weren't trying to fight us, then that stuff in the warehouse was just dumb. You want to destroy the world? I'll destroy you. The other Cha-Ar members return to the room and see the dead remains of Luini. By the way, we just decided we're gonna crush the Heil-Ly family. After seeing how cool the Phantom Troupe really is, Sudanki wants to get an autograph photograph from each one of the members. Elsewhere, we see the Heil-Ly members looking at the bottom half of Luini's body. We see Damon, Gelato, Perigol, and Billy. Now they talk amongst themselves about recreating Luini's ability. An emitter and human trafficker named Bacante suggests using his door ability to catch the prey that wander into his trap. A university student, Matavel, says that he's an aspiring emitter and that he'd be down for a projectile ability. Morena then tells the group that every situation is different, but you can trump it all with creativity. If you can't defeat an enemy head-on, binding them or nullifying their ability instead could be quite useful. And she essentially tells them to think about it like a game. Elsewhere, Zachary wakes up in a pile of garbage. Lynch says that was Hisoka. The two then tell Hinrigh where Hisoka is located, and he decides to go there right away. He then goes to Theater 8 and sits down to the man that's presumed to be Hisoka. I'll cut to the chase. I have a request. I'm listening, says Hisoka. Could you move to Tier 1 until the Heil-Ly and Cha-R families conflict is resolved? I've even found a room in the VIP area. Why? Says Hisoka. The Cha-R family and the Troupe have joined forces against the Heil-Ly, and our own Shiyu family is joining the fray. Naturally, if you attack the Troupe, you'll be our enemy too. However, despite all this, Hisoka is quite fond of chaos. Hinrigh tells Hisoka that he wants balance between the families, and Heil-Ly is aiming on breaking that balance. Hisoka then asks a blatant question. Me or the Troupe? Who do you think will win? Sorry, but I'm on Team Spiders, says Hinrigh. Your favorite? I like all of them. You? Now, as Hinrigh's about to hand Hisoka the VIP pass, he decides to pull away his hand and says, if they come knocking, I'll have to answer. Elsewhere, the soldier is wondering where Hinrigh is. He is then approached by Kenny Wang of the Cha-R family. The soldier then reveals that Hinrigh wants to find the way to the Heil-Ly hideout. Kenny Wang offers to match the amount that Hinrigh is paying so that he can also find the location of the Heil-Ly hideout. He's also going to offer $5 million to each soldier who finds a member of the Heil-Ly family. We'll wipe out every last one of them, you have my word. The soldier's then like, smile zero, ice cold smirk. And he's like, hold on a minute. Isn't your smile cursed? Everyone you smile at dies, right? And Kenny's like, such a rude rumor. Everyone dies eventually, right? Connolly, a Shiyu lieutenant, approaches with a paper bag full of money and says that they can get started once their money and Hinrigh arrive. They then meet up with Hinrigh. They are then led to room 3101, and supposedly it doesn't have a wall in their toilet. The soldier then knocks on the room as a man comes out. The man is then instructed to sit on the bed as the soldier walks in. However, all of a sudden as the soldier walks in, he disappears, which shocks Kenny Wang and Hinrigh. Oh, he didn't come along. You don't look like you're with the army. Well, either way, I have nothing to hide, so please come in. Hinrigh is wondering where the corporal is as he tosses a knife into the room. Looks like the knife won't disappear. You come here. The next one won't miss. Understood. At any rate, I have nothing to hide. The old man requests to go to the bathroom. However, Hinrigh is having none of it. I don't care if you piss yourself, just get over here. He then tosses a knife right into his thigh. He then claims to be a defenseless old man. There's not even any blood, old man. Where's your real body? He claims to be a con man, and the more he would roll around in pain, people would tend to believe him. But since Hinrigh is not buying his story, the old man evaporates into the air. Kenny Wang then suggests that they leave the Heil-Ly family to the Phantom Troupe. One of the members then goes in to pick up the knife, however, he disappears. Turns out that the room is a trap that takes you to another location. Kenny then says that the Phantom Troupe can handle the trap, as Hinrigh tells himself that he will follow up on his own leads. Elsewhere, Tashi, the small man that disappeared, gets stabbed right in the neck. Ah, sweet, I just reached level 21, says Billy. In a different room, an emitter named Terrabellum drops off Tashi's corpse and tells two female members that Vacanti said he directly connected the room to the processing area. The two female members then begin to remove Tashi's clothing as they prepare to dismember his body. Back in Morena's office, she proposes bringing one of Tserriednich's personal soldiers over to their side. Sodom, an underworld doctor assassin, level 31, then volunteers for the job. Knowing Tserriednich, he'll definitely want to kill me himself for betraying him. But seeing as the succession war is ongoing, we have no way of telling when he might make his move. In order to keep an eye on his whereabouts, I want to infect one of his soldiers with contagion. She then instructs Ororuji, garbage man, and Yokotani, corrupt lawyer, to lure in any of Tserriednich's bodyguards if they can. She then instructs Notre and Souffle to return to room 3131 and report back on the situation in room 3101 from there. Morena then summons Dogman and tells him that he has the most important mission of all, to find one of the guards. I'm gonna need a few more levels though. And it turns out that Dogman is a pro wrestler and he's level 36. Morena agrees with his assessment and says that he should get up to level 50. Hinrigh then recovers the video camera that he turned into a cat. We then see some soldiers recover a body. One of the soldiers says that the Heil-Ly members were resisting arrest and escaped to this room after shooting at them. So they were forced to break in. and because they never submitted a list of members to public safety, they'll have to treat them as regular civilians. They then state that they want to arrest the boss of the Heil-Ly family, Morena Prudo. One of the soldiers is very worried, however, that they might have Nen users and wants to come up with a different plan. Now, he suggests that conventional weapons are not going to be effective in such a battle, and while he says this, he abbreviates Prince Tserriednich's name, which pisses off his commanding officer. "If you abbreviate Prince Tserriednich's name again, I'll rip those dopey-looking eyes right out of their sockets." Now, one of the soldiers says that the body that they discovered was already a few days old, postulating that the police and the army deliberately didn't find it during the second sweep. And it turns out that the police and army use discretion when mafias have disputes with one another. He then wonders about the Hunter Association and explains that if they were to investigate the forensics, the tampering would immediately be revealed and potentially cause the association to question Kakin's investigation. However, the female soldier says that the Hunter Association wouldn't get involved because their main jobs are guarding the princes and providing support on Tier 3. He then says that if the Hunters realize the blood ties between the mafia and the royal family, that they might consider eliminating them to protect their princes. It is then speculated that war could break out between the Kakin Empire and the Mafia, and the soldiers determine that it's very clear that the Heil-Ly family is bent on destroying the balance. Now, what's really interesting is that Prince Tserriednich has remained silent despite Morena's rebellion, which means that he's possibly delaying revenge because he's found a new toy. Now, one of the members thinks that she's referring to his gun assembly and disassembly. Apparently, he was hell-bent on being the military school's fastest record. One of the classmates would argue with him during training. After the award ceremony, the prince shot him in the legs. Oops, that was a secret. And it turns out this is the infamous "you can only talk back if you break my record" incident. And thus, they come to the hypothesis that the reason that Tserriednich hasn't taken revenge yet is because he's trying to hone his Nen ability. The female soldier then says that the plan to eradicate the mafia will be kept classified, and personal soldiers will not be privy to the time or details. In addition, access between floors 2 and 3 will be restricted. Now, the reason that these soldiers don't want to join the Prince's Guard or the Royal Army is because it's too much work. Now, after some internal discussions by all the soldiers, we see a flashback that shows Tserriednich holding a gun after he shot his classmate. The soldiers then determine that Morena is a Nen user. Therefore, in order to protect themselves, they have to avoid her at all cost. Borkson then explains that Nen is a top secret weapon. One of the other female soldiers then wonders if they're able to learn Nen as well. They then want to make contact with the Shiyu and Cha-R families to establish a working relationship as soon as possible. I knew it! They're warping! It turns out that the Heil-Ly members are using a secret passage that they installed, which means that they're using a Nen ability to access their hideout. Kenny tells the soldiers that they possibly found the secret hideout behind room 3101, and that Nobunaga plans to investigate it with the other 2 Phantom Troupe members. Him and Hinrigh will track the pair seen on the camcorder footage and try to bring them back alive. We then see Nobunaga, Finks, and Phaeton by the door. A man then opens the door to Phaeton's sword. "So, shall we start here?" says Nobunaga. "No, the door might not be the only trigger. Let's start with the toilet. We were told that the hidden chamber is much larger than this one, so all the rooms here must be connected." Nobunaga then starts with the toilet as he cuts a rectangle shape into the wall. Phaeton tells the man to go first as he puts his blade right by his neck. The man then enters the room as they find out that it's empty. Finks then wonders why they're sending a rookie to confront them, and Nobunaga is wondering that maybe it's a scapegoat play, sacrificing him to make sure the others stay on their toes. After Nobunaga compares himself to the Heil-Ly organization, Finks thinks he's stretching it. But Nobunaga's like, "No, we used to be like that in the beginning. Fueled by despair and anger, we were searching for a purpose." We then have a flashback to Meteor City. "Sweet! Finders keepers," says the young Franklin. He's hoping that the videotape is an anime or some kind of action film. If it's in another language, that foreign lecture video was so boring. Shellnark then says that the suspense of not knowing what's on the tape is half the fun. "Guys, we're in for a beating. Machi just spotted us," says Chrollo. Uvo then barges in, saying that they stole something from his kingdom. Shellnark begins to taunt him, and Uvo throws something at his head and knocks him over. Bullseye! 9 deaths left. "Hey Uvo, what kind of idiot calls this place a kingdom? The only cure for that level of stupidity is death. Only dumbasses let their surroundings define them. I'm wherever the hell I say I am," says Uvo. The two begin to punch each other. Chrollo then begins to make his escape with the videotape. However, Finks calls him out, with Phaeton riding on the back of the motorcycle. "If it ain't Chrollo, what you got there? We're not like that meanie Uvo. Hand it over nicely, and we'll return it later." Chrollo then hands over the videotape as Finks rides off. However, it turns out he gave them the wrong videotape on purpose. Chrollo then returns to a large church. The priest tells him that more and more kids are being abducted, and to not visit the city outskirts alone. It turns out that the people of Meteor City have no social status. Officially, they do not exist. This made them the prime targets for nefarious individuals. Hundreds died every year before the city gained protection in exchange for providing recruits for the mob. 70% of those casualties were children under 15. As the partnership unfolded, Meteor City's elders developed Nen powers, and the law of retribution was established. Only one life can pay for life. We'll accept anything that you leave here, but don't ever take anything away from us. The spiders were just learning to crawl by the time the city of the fearful became the city of the feared. Chrollo then goes to the video room as he meets up with Paku. Unfortunately for Chrollo, he finds out that the videotape is blank. In the church's basement, the elders talk about Chrollo and how he has great promise. And they also pondered the idea of him resolving the problems plaguing the city. After fast-forwarding 10 minutes, Chrollo finds out that the cleanup rangers are on the videotape. Now, because the videotape is in a different language, Chrollo wants to do a dubbing of it. "Can you play Cleanup Pink?" says Chrollo to Paku. I can't say no to my little bro." "Stop calling me that! I'm older than you," says Chrollo. Paku is going to get a couple of other girls to play the other cast members, as Chrollo says that he loves her. Back at the church, Chrollo happily presents the scripts to the 3 girls, and Paku can't believe that he finished it in the time for her to find the 2 girls. While this is happening, on the outskirts of the city, 3 men step out of a van as 3 children are seen in the back. The van drives away as Chrollo and the girls do their dubbing. The kids get ready for a special screening. "Yo, Chrollo, heard you put my video to good use. I'm really looking forward to the after party," says Uvo. Finks then says that if he survives his encounter with Uvo, that he should join him for soccer. All the kids then get ready for the movie to start. As the show begins, everyone is left shocked that the power cleaners are speaking their language, realizing that someone must have redone their voices. Shellnark recognizes the voices and says it sounds like Chrollo and Paku. All of a sudden, the sound goes out in the theater, and then the video goes out as well. The kids become impatient as Uvo yells out, "Hurry up and play the rest, you bastard! Or is that all you got, Chrollo?" Chrollo then lies and says that he was off at the snack bar and had them stop the movie. "Alright everyone, without further ado, let's resume the mission. Give me a countdown from 3. 3, 2, 1! And with that, the movie is back on the screen. Now, because the sound is not working for the movie, Chrollo and the girls are going to do the voices live. "You're too late, Cleanup Rangers," says Chrollo. "The Gangaroo Monster's dark makeup will turn Cleanup Pink to our side. And you'll be next. Soon your pathetic species will serve the Jet Black King. We'll paint the whole world black." Just then, the cleanup gang uses the clean power combination, Clean Sweep, to save the day. Outside the theater in the forest, Sarasa walks up to Chrollo and says, "That was pretty amazing, you bastard! Maybe you ain't so bad after all." Uvo then says, "Next time, let me play the monster." "Chrollo, what you did today hit me harder than any punch I've ever taken." The two then shake hands and resolve their differences. We then see a performance in which all the kids are doing the voice acting. The gang then decides that they're going to have to start recruiting people in the future, and in a way that makes them an unofficial group, or a troupe if you will. Now the group hopes that they can find more videotapes in the future, but Nobunaga suggests that they could just do a play with a script that Chrollo writes. Uvo then says that he wants to perform elsewhere so he can become the world's greatest villain. Say, where's Sarasa? We then see Sarasa looking for a new video. Nobody else knows about the huge pile of tapes at the corporate dump near Uga Forest. I've memorized how they write Cleanup Rangers, so I just gotta look out for the new episode titles. Now, inside the van with the 3 child hostages, one of the men says that the residents are becoming more vigilant. Security's getting tighter, but they've already hit their quota. That being said, they just want to catch one more for fun. This week's showing of the Special Cleanup Rangers is about to begin. Unfortunately, Sarasa has not shown up. As everyone in the audience gets excited when Chrollo gets on the stage, he's there to give them some rather somber news. He then tells them that the show is postponed because Sarasa has not shown up. It turns out that she's been missing since yesterday, and as many of them already know, child abductions have been increasing as of late. We will now focus on finding Sarasa. That's why we must postpone the show. My apologies, says Chrollo. Other members in the audience then volunteer to help find Sarasa. Uvo and Chrollo then get on a bike as they go to find Sarasa. They then reach the forest as we see Chrollo crying. And there's even a note that's on the tree as well. "No, that's not. Someone's gotta check." "I'll do it. I'll look," says Chrollo. "Hey, what the hell did they write on that paper?" Uvo then lowers the bag to Chrollo as he catches it. He then looks into the bag and sees Sarasa's dismembered body, causing him to cry profusely. "Answer me, Chrollo. What's on the paper?" "I won't say," says Chrollo. "Don't mess with me. What did those murderous bastards write?" "I won't say it. I'll take those words to my grave. If you really want to know, read it for yourself."
Machi then grabs onto the bag and says, let's hurry up and take her home. It would be too sad to leave her here. It must have hurt so much. We then see Sarasa's body back to normal again as she's being put to rest. It turns out that she's back to normal again thanks to Renko, who did the embalming. Uvo then decides to give the videotape to Sarasa as she's put to rest. Machi then asks Renko if she can do embalming as well. Impossible. It's not a skill I can teach. It's my special ability. Does that ability have something to do with the glow around your body? You can see my aura? Says Renko. Those pretty eyes of yours make my skin crawl, says Renko. If you get permission from your nannies, you're welcome to visit. After they lay Sarasa to rest, Uvo wants to get revenge. However, Chrollo asks him to wait for 3 years. Chrollo speculates that the killers recorded what they did. The crime scene was orchestrated to convey a message. It was just like our play, and those cigarette butts we were standing on was probably the spot that they filmed it from. If these people heard of a way to showcase their art to the world, there's no way they could resist. Chrollo then says that Meteor City will become a safe haven for criminals to pass through. In effect, he's creating a hideout for all the baddies in the world so they can find the ones that they're looking for. Shalnark and the others decide to help Chrollo out with his plans. Now, in order to ensure what happened to Sarasa never happens again, they'll need to offer up their lives. After 3 years, I will take many lives. I will live the rest of my life as a villain, who will make the whole world tremble with fear. Now, Chrollo offers a leadership position to Uvo, but Uvo declines. You're the leader, Chrollo, and with you as the head, I'll follow you until I die. We then see Chrollo age 3 years as the Phantom Troupe, i.e. the Spiders, are officially born. We are now back in the present. Finks speculates that the old man is a conjurer's clone, serving as a lookout and the center point for the trap. However, Nobunaga has his doubts, claiming that teleportation uses emission, not conjuring. The mafia member then opens the door, but finds another one that is locked. Nobunaga realizes that the bathroom setup is a trap, to buy them some time if someone figures out the front door is a trap and decides to break through it, like they did. They determine that it's safe to enter and have the mafia man go first. Finks tells him to leave through another door. They then tell him to come back again, but he makes a mad dash. Phaeton then catches up to him and tells him to pick a sword. Nobunaga convinces the man to return. Nobunaga then determines that this is a landmine type of trap, where the trigger is made by applying Nen to 2 or 3 spots. The stronger the landmine type, the closer the user has to be to the entry or exit point. Phaeton takes another mafia member hostage and forces him into the room, triggering the trap. And with this, it confirms that the trap can be used multiple times, and they could deliberately use it to fight the Heil-Ly family. Phaeton wants to go first, but is interrupted by Wang and Hinrigh. Hinrigh suggests that a stooge take a transmitter into the trap to reveal the Heil-Ly's location. He then transforms the transmitter into an oyster and says that the stooge just needs to swallow it. Unfortunately for Nobunaga, he doesn't eat shellfish, and Phaeton won't eat anything someone else has touched. But it turns out that Hinrigh already has a stooge, as he swallows the oyster. Hinrigh then hands them the receiver as he goes into the trap. The troupe begins their search as we see Hinrigh in the Heil-Ly hideout. After crouching down to avoid any gunfire, he notices that no one is in the room with him. Hinrigh notices fresh blood as Nobunaga arrives in the room. Nobunaga figured their chances of survival would only go up with him there, as they begin to take action. Nobunaga claims to have found their hideout as he cuts the wall. It's guarded by Nen? Questions Hinrigh. Yup, replies Nobunaga. Elsewhere, we see Morena with a menacing grin. Hinrigh opens all the doors, with Nobunaga watching. Shower, bathroom, and 3 toilets. Hinrigh pushes open the main door and finds a room filled with laundry. What kind of demons are awaiting them? Nobunaga determines that the people in the adjacent rooms were Heil-Ly members too. Hinrigh then opens another door as the two find 9 Heil-Ly members sitting and talking to each other. I'm going to assume that this is the Heil-Ly base, and that you're the members, says Hinrigh. Souffle and Terrabellum continue their conversation as if nothing happened. Nobunaga suspects that there's another trap through the door. That's why they're acting so nonchalant. Hinrigh then chucks a knife at Terrabellum, and it pierces his head. That hurt, says Terrabellum. Terrabellum stands up, stares at Hinrigh, pulls the knife out, and crushes it. Hinrigh notices that the blade of the knife had teleported to the can that he was holding. Nobunaga speculates that Terrabellum might be a counter type. Hinrigh tosses another knife at Terrabellum, but he dodges. If this got stuck in my hand, I wonder how much it'd take to recover, says Perigord. Orange then uses an issue of Shonen Jump to block it. Terrabellum bickers at Souffle as Yokotani acknowledges Hinrigh. He states that Hinrigh will be reported for illegal trespassing and attempted murder. Yokotani then acknowledges Nobunaga as the samurai hurls his sword into the lawyer's head. He then pulls the sword out and says, I see, so you can move other people's damage too. As it turns out, Terrabellum was the one that transferred the damage. Sweet home damage.
damage, can transfer damage in the means of attack. Damage dealt to whatever the right hand is touching is transferred to the user. Damage to the user can be redirected to whatever the left hand is holding, and there must be contact at the moment of attack. Nobunaga then says he'll skewer the lawyer like a kebab. Terabellum then reminds Yokotani that he's the guard. Yokotani activates LSDF, Mohist Attack, which provides a defensive force that cannot take damage. However, it cannot deal damage either. Their sentence is undeniably eviction. Nobunaga attacks, but it's ineffective. Retreat! These guys are probably invincible types. The guard confiscates Nobunaga's katana, as the swordsman urges Hinrigh to get away while he can. After the eviction, Yokotani urges Hinrigh to do likewise. Hinrigh returns to the laundry room and decides to put the transmitter there by forcing himself to puke. Nobunaga is now back in room 3101. If you enter through the front, it transports you to the Heil-Ly hideout, and if you exit through the door, you end up back here. Nobunaga then thinks that there's a jump point as Hinrigh returns. Hinrigh will work out the hideout's location by mobilizing the whole family. Hinrigh notes that the Heil-Ly family looked like a bunch of amateurs. Nevertheless, Nobunaga notes that the one moving the pieces, i.e. Morena, isn't stupid. Finks and Phaeton determine that the hideout is on tier 2 or 4. Phaeton suggests that they use N, but Finks is opposed to this idea since his N always breaks up when he's distracted, and given that they're in a large crowd, he'll get distracted rather easily. Nobunaga reconvenes with the two as the guard allows them to pass. Just then, something begins to bug Nobunaga. As they travel to tier 4, the target gets further away, confirming that the hideout must be on tier 2. Nobunaga begins to panic, suggesting that they should grab Franklin since they underestimated the Heil-Ly's power. In addition, fetching Franklin would be useful if Hisoka shows up. Just then, an emergency announcement then comes over the PA. We then transition to Prince Tyson's room. All of her employees are role-playing for her amusement. Guilano is told to be reborn again as a cold bodyguard that is really sweet deep down, to which he obliges. Aizunavi determines that Tyson's Nenbi's power is linked to her Bible. It turns out that Tyson's mother handed out the Bibles as a condition to have her join the Succession War. Tyson wasn't too keen on joining the Succession War in the first place, so this was kind of a way of doing it. Aizunavi recommends that Tyson's mother have the king read the Bible at the next banquet. Elsewhere, Queen Psycho wants to see her daughter Fugetsu, but the current restrictions prevent her from doing so. Psycho then bemoans the loss of Kacho, particularly because she served as a shield for her sister. Kacho's guardian beast wants to make Fugetsu the monarch, but wants to keep the fact that she's dead a secret from her sister. Though Melody is distraught, she agrees to help Kacho's Nen beast. It turns out that the other princes have caught on to the fact that Melody was involved in the escape, so Kacho will have to comply with their demands. Kaizuru states that the most effective way of protecting Fugetsu is by offing the other high-ranking princes. Kaizuru recommends a slow-acting poison. Melody wonders why Kaizuru wants to help them out, and he admits that he likes her, in a romantic sort of way. Despite his words, Melody suspects that Kaizuru has an ulterior motive. Kaizuru will move forward with the plan, as Kacho decides to tell Fugetsu that the other top 4 princes need to be defeated at all cost. Kacho returns to the interrogation room as Kaizuru meets up with her there. Kaizuru then tells Steiner that a worst-case scenario is if martial law is declared, where the army then takes control of the 3 branches of the government. In such a scenario, the Ministry of Justice would be labeled dissidents, and they would be executed. Steiner says it would be a disaster for everyone if he were to die. Kacho returns to the room and immediately panics when she can't find Fugetsu. She uncovers the bed sheets and finds one of Fugetsu's doors. Without Kacho, however, Fugetsu is stuck in a one-way tunnel. Kacho suspects that she might be trying to hide from an attacker. Fugetsu then opens a door and says she can now manifest doors more than once a day, and she can manifest a return door. The more she uses the magic, the better she feels. But Kacho notices that her personal health is deteriorating. I've always known that you've been protecting and looking out for me, Kachan. Now it's my turn. I'll do whatever it takes. No, I want to. Kacho tells Fugetsu to lie down and rest. Melody sets up a situation where she can see Fugetsu in the hallway and is horrified by what she sees. Dark spirits are wrapped around her body as her aura is dwindling, mimicking the state of Zetsu. To prevent Fugetsu from dying, Melody will need to get someone to perform an exorcism. Melody then walks walks into a room with Prince Heil-Ly, as she wonders how Fugetsu became possessed in the first place. Heil-Ly commends Melody on her splendid performance at the recital. Heil-Ly wants to hear the recital once more, and wants Melody to accept one of his coins. Bontaine, captain of the 4th Prince's private guard, invites Melody to Tserriednich's room. Melody, however, cannot decide that since she's Kacho's bodyguard. However, she would be happy to perform given the opportunity. Melody then rules out the 4th Prince's involvement in Fugetsu's condition. Melody tells Kaizuru they can't perform their plan at the next banquet, as they need to find out more about Fugetsu's condition. Melody instructs Kaizuru to go to room 1014 to tell Kurapika, since he's the only person that she can trust. Melody notes that neither Heil-Ly or Bontaine's hearts faltered when she brought up the idea of negotiations. She now can't rule out any of the princes as potential suspects. In room 1014, Longhee states that the water divination is unnecessary, since he already can use Nin. Kurapika then agrees to Longhee's proposed contract. I'll join hands with the 5th Prince Tubeppa. And the chapter ends with no chance to catch their breath. And for now, guys, that's all I got for HunterXHunter. As many of you know, Togashi's health is not the best. So, after producing the last 10 chapters, he's gonna slow things down a little bit. We should be finding out what his plans are for the future relatively soon in like the next Shonen Jump. But for now, we're just waiting to see what happens next. If you guys enjoyed this HunterXHunter recap, please consider subscribing to my channel, signing up for my Patreon, or just liking the video. I appreciate everything you guys do for me, and I'll catch you on the flip side.